Hey, welcome back to the Ideal OneChunkMan. This is Source Chunk. Glad to have you back. It is episode 3 now. If you remember, in the last episode, we had just finished laying out our plans for how we were going to get to Varrock and unlock the West Anvil for that better smithing training in the future. So, our plan was to go to the east to get to that toll gate, then go south from there to Al Kharid to unlock a good furnace. Then from there, go to the Champions Guild, and north of there to get finally to the West Anvil. So let's hop into the progress and see how I found those grinds. So for the first chunk, that tollgate chunk, we have that emerald to cut, remember, from the gemstone. So that's 27 crafting to go. So first up, I'm in the sheep field here. Sure, in the sheep, I'm going to need about 400 balls of wool made on the spinning wheel upstairs in Lumbridge because I got some XP already from doing the sheep shearer quest last episode, and I cut off quite a few balls of wool, which is very nice. But these are going to be a bit rough. Luckily, we have 3/4 of the pen to work with, so it'll be pretty easy to get them. It's just going to be quite a few trips to get that 400 balls of wool. What I've been doing is shearing the sheep and then running down to the courtyard of the castle and hopping to a PvP world to bank there and then hopping back to not get killed as I'm shearing sheep. I mean, not that they'd get very much, they would get literally just my shears and then whatever I had sheared in that inventory, but it's better safe than sorry. Pretend I'm a hardcore Iron Man for this stuff. Almost missed it, but there's 10 crafting. Just finished up with these balls of wool. Took, I don't know, a couple hours or something, but it was pretty relaxing, honestly. I remember doing this on my other account, and it was, I think I only had like half of the sheep pen, and even that was just so much worse than this. It's very relaxing to kind of just, in the background, you're shearing sheep, and you're not too worried about walking out of your chunks because there's just like a fifth or a sixth of the pen that is not in your chunk, and the rest of it's just wide open, so it's very nice. And as you saw in the clip before, I had marked the sheep with rune lights, so I was just kind of clicking and relaxing. It was very nice. But let's check out the bank real quick, you'll see. Got those nice 400 balls of wool or so. It'll be nice down the road when I make 400 amulets. I don't know, I'm probably never going to use very many of these, but I'll have a lifetime supply at the very least, so anytime I need a ball of wool, I'll have it ready. Alright, and this will be the last inventory for 27 crafting of sinew. This was very nice, actually. I'd highly recommend if you're killing cows for other things to collect some of their beef and make it into sinew, because this was super great. The XP per thing is way higher. The balls of wool are 2.5 XP per, and these sinew are 15 XP per, so an insane increase. And since I already had them banked, this was incredibly fast. I feel like I've been here for like 20 minutes and gotten level or something. It's crazy. But yeah, I know I said I wasn't going to use very many of those 400 balls of wool, but I'm definitely not going to use like any of these 600 crossbow string. But, you know, that's the sacrifice for getting this good XP. So now that this part's done, let's move on to the harder part, which is actually getting the emerald. No, but actually, I wasn't joking when I said this is the harder part. In the background, you'll see me hopping every single world looking for emeralds. Most of them have uncut sapphires, which is nice. They'll give me some extra XP, but none of them have emeralds. There should be one stock in here of an uncut emerald, but none of these worlds have it. This is gonna take a while. I maybe have to come back on like tomorrow morning or something and try to get lucky, or like really late tonight, but it's like peak hours right now, the evenings for me, so I don't think I'm gonna be able to get one actually. So hopefully I'm back soon and have an emerald, because otherwise I'm kind of just stuck waiting. Alright, well after a little setback we have the emerald, so let's go ahead and cut it and complete the chunk. Yeah, well, while I'm here I'm gonna go ahead and cut all those sapphires that we got while looking for the emerald. I actually got kind of lucky because usually they're pretty bought out on the same worlds that the emerald's bought out on, and we got quite a few, like 60 or 70 of them, so I'm just gonna cut them and enjoy the XP while I can, and then we'll go ahead and move on to the next chunk. Almost forgot. there's a quest we can start here in this chunk, the feud. We have the 30 thieving for. I don't know if you need that for the start, but we can start it in this chunk actually. We need to go down to Paul Nivnich to actually continue it and complete it, but we can start it. So good thing I caught that before we moved on. Alright, so checking out this new chunk just south of the one we were just in. It's got a lot of shops, so we got the Scimitar shop here, which we'll be able to upgrade to a Mithril Scimitar instead of the Mithril Battle Axe, so that's very fancy. And we already have the attack level, obviously, to wield it, so that's fine. Got a kebab shop over here, get some food if we need, that's nice. We also got the plate legs shop here where we can buy adamant plate legs, but you know, now I'm thinking about it, let's go to the plate skirt shop. I think it fits my character better. So, adamant plate skirt gotten, 30 defense needed. However, we already have that, so we can check that right off the list. And there's also a crafting shop here, which doesn't trigger anything for us now, but it's nice to have these molds and everything like that, so we'll buy some of them and keep them in the bank. Down to the south, there's a building that gives access to the Sorceress's Garden minigame. Try saying that 5 times fast. And I cannot access it yet. I've went through the dialogue and double checked, but you need Prince Ali Rescue completed to even access that. And when we do, that'll be a bit of a grind, but we have no access to that yet, so no worries. What we do have access to in this house, it actually is a bronze mace, which, believe it or not, is a best in the slot for prayer. Maces give prayer bonus, and this one gives a +1 prayer bonus, so lucky us. One final thing in this chunk is Prince Ali Rescue quest, and we can do the first 2 steps in it, which is talking to the leader of Al-Kharid, and then talking to the spy master, and basically laying out our plans for the quest. But then after that, we have to head on over to Draenor Village, and we are not going there anytime right away, so we don't have to worry about this quite yet. Right on to the next chunk, we have the Champions Guild chunk. For this, we need 20 mining for the silver rock here, and I got right away to mining the tin. I was going to mine clay, because there's clay here as well. I was going to mine that for most of it, because I figured clay would be more useful than tin, but turns out clay gives way worse XP than mining tin. I didn't know that. So I'm just going to mine tin, and I'll maybe make an inventory of it, but otherwise I'm just going to drop it. And then we'll get to 15 mining at some point, and mine the iron that's here. Well, didn't take too long, but there's 15 mining. Just gonna go hop onto the iron rocks now and get started on that for the last 5 levels. Let me take you through my cycle of banking iron ore here. I'm only gonna be banking like an inventory or 2, but I just think it's kind of a fun cycle of banking and then coming back. So I just want to show you what I'm doing. So I mine an inventory of iron first, and with a bronze pickaxe, and my level that takes like 4 minutes or something. So I do that first, and then I go down to the canoe station here, and it's actually to the chunk to the east of me. Take note of that, and I can ride that down to Lumbridge as long as I have an axe in my inventory, which I have equipped actually. So I do that, and then I go and bank in Lumbridge. I can either hop to a PvP world or just go up to the top, whatever. And then I come back and ride the log up to the chunk that I was in, except this time it doesn't return me to that eastern chunk. It actually puts me 1 square into my new chunk, the Champions Guild chunk. So, interesting that I actually couldn't use the canoe to get back this way until I unlock this most recent chunk, but now that I have it, I can use that. And trivia fact, there's actually another transportation method that works just like that, and it's the Chronicle for these 2 chunks as well. The space that the Chronicle teleports you to is mostly on the eastern chunk, but a little bit on the western chunk too. Just a fun fact, now you know. Alright, only took 2 or 3 trips of iron, but there's 20 mining. Let's go grab the silver ore. There we go, there's a silver ore, and that should be chunk complete now. Let's go ahead and move on north to the last chunk that we had planned out. Alright, well while I'm in this part of the chunk, I'm just going to go ahead and start Gertrude's cat while I'm here. Can't do anything until we get to Varrock Center, and then can't do any more until we get all the way to the lumberyard, so not going to complete that anytime too soon, but go ahead and start it. Alright, with that quest start out of the way, we can hop into the main content of this chunk, which is basically going to be getting 50 cooking for a chocolate cake. We have to do that because there's a chocolate bar here, and we need to process that chocolate bar in some way, and chocolate cake is going to be the easiest way to do that. So, 8 levels in cooking. I'm going to try a different method than the scrambled eggs. I'm going to try doing wines, actually. So I'm going to fill up these jugs of water, and I'm going to go to the top of the tower here, and there's one spawn of grapes, and I'm going to hop worlds and add it to the jugs of water. And I should be able to hop between quick enough that the jugs of unfermented wine don't ferment while I'm hopping, and then I'll get a big XP drop afterwards. So I'm going to see how this goes, and if I don't like it, we can always fall back to the scrambled eggs that we were doing in the past. Alright, so making the wines like I just showed was decent, but I decided to just hop world with an empty inventory and just pick up all the grapes and then come to a bank and process all of them later. So that's what I've been doing now, and I should be getting a nice big XP drop. Oh, I thought I planned that to get 50 cooking around the dot, but as you can see I only got 49. I must have spoiled more wines than I thought I would, so let me go do some scrambled eggs real quick and finish this off. Alright, back in my comfort zone again. I really like these scrambled eggs, to be honest. I'm just going to say that again. Honestly, if you have another cooking grind, I kind of want to come back here instead of the wines. I like this a lot more. But there's 50 cooking. Let's go do the chocolate cake now. Alright, so first I need to bake a normal cake for this, and then I'm going to add the chocolate. So cake first, hopefully I don't burn. Okay, good, and then oh, I think I just add the chocolate here, so I think I'm in the clear. Well, there we go. Chocolate cake. All done. Alright, so I want to talk about my plans for the future with where we're going on this account. But before I do that, I think I need to address the elephant in the room. I've been getting a lot of questions on Discord and direct messages to me about why I'm spending my time woodcutting in background and fletching in the background with a steel axe at the willow trees and lumbridge instead of going and getting a better spot to woodcut or getting a better axe especially. And I'd like to address why I'm doing that. So partially it's because I need something to do in the background, otherwise I'd log out of the account and I make no progress. So even inefficient progress in the background is efficient long term in the macro sense. So I wouldn't call that any less ideal. I think that's just as ideal as I can make it. Now, secondly, I actually think that what I'm doing isn't inefficient really. I think it might be quite efficient even if I wasn't AFKing in the background actually. So let's talk about what I could do to improve the methods that I have access to, or the way that I'm training my woodcutting and fletching. Most people, when they think about getting a better axe, they think about obviously the rune axe, and the comments that I've been getting, all of them have been pointing to the woodcutting guild in Zaya, which is way over here. So this chunk here is a chunk that has a woodcutting axe shop, and it's the only shop in the game that sells a rune axe. There are other places to get it as a drop, but that's the only place that sells it, so it makes sense to go there. And I've even had comments saying it's easy to route there. So let's talk about the routing there and settle this. So I have my test map up here. This is what I use for planning stuff out. I'd recommend if you're doing an account like this, make a second map and use that as kind of your play map, test things out. Draw out your route and see what things you encounter. Sometimes the unexpected things happen that you're trying to plan ahead, but you don't get everything quite in your head. It's useful for doing this, and I'd highly recommend it. I go on from there to explain in about 10 minutes all the different steps you need to take to get there, all the different levels and items you need to grind along the way as you're going to get there, but for the sake of brevity and sanity, I'll skip through that to the end where I talk about why, even if you're able and willing to do 80 cooking, 76 fishing, get some 1 in 512 drops and to fight high-level monsters, why even that still isn't enough to get you there. And then we would be able to finally get to this one and walk in the door. Great. One issue. You actually can't walk in the door because you need Hosidius' favor to get there. Well, we've made it this far. Maybe there's a way that we can get Hosidius' favor still. So, if you look on the wiki, the only way to get Hosidius' favor at the very start of your account is to plow the fields. And this is what Pelipper did in his series, because he took this route actually. He took the route to the Woodcutting Guild to get the rune axe, so woodcutting is more efficient. So makes sense that people would be recommending it for me. So let's take a look at why that's not possible anymore, basically. So in his account, he accessed Port Piscarius before the rework of Hosidius. Hosidius used to look quite different. It was more sprawling and expanded upwards a little higher. So if we look at this chunk here used to have a plow field in it, actually. So he just came over here, went to the plow field and did it there. The only plow field now is in one chunk. There are two plow fields, and they're both in this chunk here. And if you'll notice, there are magic trees in that chunk. So there is literally no way to get Hosidius' favor, as far as I'm aware, without also having magic trees in your chunk, which means there's no way to get the rune axe from the Woodcutting Guild before 75 woodcutting. After 75 woodcutting, fair enough. You can probably find a route through these lands down here up to there, get your favor, go back to the Woodcutting Guild, get your axe, and chop away at those magic trees, but you're going to need those magic trees first. And I think that's what most people have the issue with, and I hope that did a good job explaining kind of why this isn't possible. One thing I do want to point out is that I know that I could unlock all the chunks leading up to the Woodcutting Guild, including the Woodcutting Guild chunk, and then go and unlock the chunk that has the favor in it and the magic trees, and then I would have access to the Woodcutting Guild and therefore the rune axe and also the magic trees at the same time. And that would let me get the rune axe before I had to grind to 75 woodcutting. However, that would mean that I would be forced to grind to 75 woodcutting, fletching, and firemaking right away, rather than being able to do it at my own pace leisurely. So that's why I'm not doing that as an option, even though I know that I can. Alright, well, with that all out of the way, let's talk about my actual future plans. So, I've been a little bit secretive with this, and that's not intentional. I just didn't really have very good future plans. I wanted to get good ones before I worked on sharing them with you. So I have an idea now, so I'd like to go ahead and share them now. And people were requesting I share more ideas as far as long-term plans, so I'd love to, now that I have some. So what I want to do is I want to work towards getting a dragon longsword and dragon dagger. They are iconic weapons. They are going to be the bread and butter, basically, until we get like a dragon scimitar, maybe, barring a couple other things. But they'll be really good weapons, and they get a special attack weapon, and they're going to be really nice in general. And along the way, I'm going to pick up some other stuff that I think is going to be useful for me. So the main things that we're going to have to do is kind of routing this is that we need to make sure that the things that we're doing are relatively efficient. So let's go through all the chunks that we need for this quest, and then we can talk about what we need to do to kind of supplement that to make it more manageable for us. So first things first, this quest start is in this chunk here. So we can open that up and take a look at what we need. The ham hideout will also be unlocked when we do that. So it's just going to be a couple best in slot stuff, nothing too big since we've gotten a decent amount of gear already. The leather body, we can get that as a drop, or we can just craft it ourselves now that we have leather and tanner. The red cape, we can Go ahead and get, that's fine, it's from a goblin. Bronze javelin's the same, and then the ham ribs is fine. We'll probably get a full set of ham ribs while we're there. And now that we have 40 thieving, this should be a bit easier than at the base level. From there, we need to get over to Entrana, and to do that, we need to get to Port Sarim. So the least resistant path to getting to Port Sarim is going to be probably through this crossroads chunk. This chunk down here is going to provide more resistance, I think. So if we do this crossroads chunk, that only changed the kind of cape we can get. So maybe we'll do that one first, since the black cape's going to be easier than the red cape to get. Who knows, you know. One of these two chunks first, and the other one after that. Then to South Falador Farm, which adds nothing, because remember, farming is generally tertiary, so these fields don't mean too much. And then down to Port Sarim. So this will require us to get 30 attack, which we already have, so that's fine. We unlock fishing, which is fine. And then magic casting wind wave. So this is fine, I'm okay with this, but I think that I'd probably want to get a slightly better method for magic before I unlock this. Having an air staff or a fire staff would probably be nice, so I have infinite runes of that type. So I'm thinking I'd probably unlock the Varrock rune shop, and therefore Central Varrock, right before I unlock this chunk. So if we take a look at that, we undo this one and then put this one on. It might look like more stuff, and it is, but it's going to be okay because most of this stuff is just easy stuff. I unlock ranged, which is fine, and I unlock magic, obviously, but with a staff shop, it's going to be easier that way, I think. So then from there, we can unlock this chunk, and that's going to add basically nothing. Basically has the same stuff as the Varrock chunk up there. And then we can unlock the Entrana chunk, which has basically nothing. Except for the Entrana dungeon, of course. Which means that we're gonna have to bake an Admiral Pie, because the Greater Demon down there drops a tuna. Okay, so a little bit of a setback, but not too bad. I have 50 already, and my training method for doing other stuff isn't too bad right now. I have the wines if I want to, and I have the scrambled eggs, so that could be okay. Maybe we'll work on getting a better cooking method there. We'll have to think about it. And anything else? Well, we have a rune full helm drop, and we have a mithril kite shield drop. So those are the big ones that I see. So if there's another way that we can look at working on a rune full helm or mithril kite shield, as far as better ways to get it, because obviously the Entrana dungeon is going to be difficult to get those drops from, because we'll have to bring an unstrung bow and string it while we're there just to attack them or whatever, or non-auto casting, I should say, of spells. So hopefully there's a better way we can look at, and we'll explore that as we go. And then finally, we need this chunk down here to actually get into Xanaris, and that means I'll have to get up to 30 smithing. So those are our main things that we want to keep in mind as we're trying to figure out this path, and I'll explain more of what I think is going to be the best way to go about doing these alternatives that we might potentially do, or being okay with the fact that we have to do some grinds. But I think it's going to be beneficial to get these dragon weapons. It's going to be pretty sweet to have them, and I'm excited to show you kind of more things as we go and as I think about them. But yeah, so that's basically my route on getting to Lost City. I'd love to hear what you guys think about that, the route in general, as well as any feedback you have on my specific decisions, as well as I'd love to hear if you have any solutions to the issues I was facing, or potentially will face. So the 30 smithing, if you can think of a good way to route that, I'd love to hear it. Same with the 70 cooking. I have my eggs and making scrambled eggs, and I'll also have fishing unlocked by then, so I'll be able to do some fly fishing and cooking here. But if you think there's a better option nearby, please let me know. And then also the couple of drops that I would need from the monsters in the Enchana dungeon. If there's a way to route around those, that'd be great. Or if you think it's not going to be a big a deal, please tell me. I'd love to hear. I don't have too much experience killing those guys down there, so anything is helpful. I have a couple things up my sleeve that I'm not sharing quite yet, because partially because I'm not sure they actually work, but partially because, well, it's got to be a little mystery, doesn't there? So you'll find out soon enough, you know? So I think that's about it for this episode, though. I've gone on for about long enough, and it's a good cutoff point. Next episode, we'll start going through the plan that I laid out here, as well as a couple other things along the way. But yeah, if you enjoyed the episode, please subscribe and like the video. Appreciate it a lot. And as always, every video, I'd like to thank my patrons, JLo, Chagahad, and new this month, Happery. All three of them are great, and they've been supporting me now for a couple of months. You guys let me do this, and I appreciate it a lot. If you want to join the three of them on my Patreon, go to patreon.com/sourcechunk. I'd appreciate it a lot. But I think that's about it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time in episode 4.